Welcome back to the Skills Development Summit. Most importantly, thank you that you still tuned in till now. I hope you are hashtagging Skills Summit 22, that is Skills Summit 22. Joining us on our last panel of the day, Employability and Entrepreneurship, the key pillars that support economic recovery and reconstruction. Joining me this afternoon for the last segment, concluding the summit, is Dr. Manager Mangarai Mswaba, who's the Principal and CEO for College of Cape Town. Then we have Ms. Katherine Weinberg, who's the Director at Fatola. Then we have Mr. Yanesh Naidu, Sales and Design Director at Gendermark Automation. We also have Lisa Ellingworth, CEO for Future Proof. Welcome, colleagues, and thank you very much for joining us. To maybe start us off, may I invite Mr. Naidu? Maybe you can start, and then we'll have Dr. Mswaba. Dr. Mswaba. Then we'll have Katherine and Lisa.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. So I'm Yanesh from Gendermark Automation. We design and build machines that assemble automotive components. And fortunately for us, we export most of those machines around the world. I'm actually sitting in the US visiting a customer right now. And from a skills perspective, obviously the skills we need to build and design these machines and send them around the world, even to first world countries like Germany and the US, we need a special set of skills. And so this particular topic is very relevant to us. And what I'm a firm believer of is we now have technology available to help us bridge the skills gap. And I'd like to expand on that a little bit further through the discussion today. I think you're on mute.
I am so on mute. Can't believe we're talking skills development and then I mess up digitally. I'm so sorry about that.
And you're the host.
Exactly. That is so bad. Thank you so much, Mr. Naidu. Dr. Mswaba, can we have you come in there?
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Manager Mswaba. My other name is Mangarai.
Mangarai. Okay.
Yeah, Rai, not Ri.
Right.
It's AI. Okay,
oh,
thank
but
you.
I did say Rai.
Yes, you did say it at a later stage. Yes, I think it's quite important in the industry in which I am. That is the industry for the production of knowledge and production of skills. The education sector. I think it's quite important that we talk about employability, entrepreneurship versus a situation where the person or the candidate for employment is actually supposed to be inculcated with skills for the development and for the contribution to the economy. I have been in this field of education and the production of knowledge for the past 25 years. And precisely in the TVET sector where I am, I've been there for the last 10 years. In the TVET sector. I think it's quite important that we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about employability, considering the fact that we are a government institution, and more importantly, we implement the government policies in terms of reduction of poverty, promotion of skills, and also empowering historically disadvantaged people, especially the women, as well as the disadvantaged people prior post-apartheid. So it's quite important that we talk about that. And I think the industry or the education sector has got a lot to offer to this seminar or conference, because we are doing quite a lot in terms of promoting the government policies in ensuring that the skills have been imparted, but also there is promotion of entrepreneurship to our graduates, especially to our graduates, and also to our corporate citizens. You know, organizations like TVET colleges, they live within the communities. And for that reason, they then have to operate as corporate citizens. So in short, I think that is where what we will be discussing, and we will be giving you some of the projects that the TVET sector, especially the College of Cape Town, has been embarking on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Katherine, can you come in there? Then we'll have Lisa.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that. So Katherine Weinberg, I'm the founder and CEO of Fatola, and I'm really passionate about unlocking the potential of fearless leaders in order to build successful businesses. So I'm quite interested that we have a juxtaposition here, employability and entrepreneurship, because they're so different. And I see that there's actually a third component. There's the skills for being employable. There are the skills for running a business, and there are the technical skills, which I think probably Yanesh is speaking to. And I just think it's really important to understand that these things don't necessarily overlap. In my experience, I've 30 years as a business owner and more than 16 years now fostering the lasting success of many hundreds of businesses. I've really found that there's a big difference. I believe entrepreneurship is not something we study, it's something we do. And I think that this is sometimes where we go wrong, is we teach entrepreneurship thinking that it's something you can teach out of a book. So a bit like you don't learn to be a brain surgeon by just studying the book, you have to do the practical. I think this is sometimes where we misunderstand that entrepreneurship is a doing activity, not a studying activity. But anyway, in summary, I think what's very interesting is that there's 3 components of skills that maybe we're speaking about today.
Okay, thank you very much. Look forward to engaging with you. Lisa?
Thanks very much, Divine. Lisa Ellingworth. I am the CEO and co-founder of Future Proof South Africa. And Future Proof South Africa exists to catalyze entrepreneurial thinking and action in children from the age of 5 years old, right up to 17. I work, yes, in the same sector as Katherine in entrepreneurship education, and we are very much aligned against what entrepreneurship education looks like in demonstrable evidence and practical abilities put to use in order to create economic activity for not just those that are needing it to survive, but to create opportunity entrepreneurs. And that's why we start at the age of 5 years old in order to inculcate entrepreneurial mindsets and traits. And I think this is where it might overlap, because entrepreneurial mindsets and traits can also be used in creating employability and creating a next generation of employees that are value-adding citizens, no matter whether they're starting businesses or not. So that's my background, and I'm pleased to be here. It's exciting to have this discussion.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I look forward to engaging, especially with some of the initiatives that your organization applies in teaching entrepreneurship from the age of 5. But let me start with you, Mr. Naidu. How has the nature of entrepreneurship changed? Not really only in your industry, but if you just give us an overview since COVID. So maybe just highlight the impact of the pandemic on entrepreneurship.
So I don't know if I'm qualified to answer generally, but I can maybe be specific on how it's kind of impacted us.
Sure.
So I think there's been lots of bad, obviously, and lots of good. We've had to push ourselves beyond where we thought we could go in order to survive. We've got customers all around the world. We couldn't travel. This is my first trip to the US, where 80% of my customers are in the last 2 years. And I would typically come here 4 to 5 times a year. And for 2 years, I never was able to come here. So we had to come up with different ways to install machines remotely, to engage with customers, because obviously it's a relationship game, and you can't build a relationship over Zoom. You have to find different ways. And so it definitely pushed us beyond using, high tech like VR to engage in design reviews with our customers, augmented reality. So it definitely pushed us beyond, out of our comfort zones. And as a result of that, we now have additional products to sell to our customers. So some good and some bad. And I would imagine it would have affected multiple people in a similar way. But I think just to the entrepreneurship side, and I think Kathy mentioned it, I think, in my opinion, the big differentiator between learning entrepreneurship and doing entrepreneurship, as Kathy talks about, is the grit to see it through the hard times. Because in theory, everyone can make it when things are good. When you've got customers paying and you can deliver on time, whatever your product is, it's easy. But the real entrepreneurs stand out when things go wrong and things go bad. And I think, if anything, COVID has filtered out the entrepreneurs, and the real entrepreneurs have made it through.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. I hope I'm not on mute this time. No. It's just a side joke. Dr. Manager, tell us some of the programs that the college has done to instill a culture, or to rather make entrepreneurship traditional, particularly in our communities, because we know there's a huge drive around rural and township development with respect to industrializing our communities, and that is strongly driven by entrepreneurship. So how has the college cultivated students in terms of entrepreneurship?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, Representative, I think it's quite important that I also indicate that the education sector is a sector of research as well.
Sure.
And I'm a researcher as well. So research in the sense of providing new knowledge and providing new policy direction to the sector. Coming back to your question, I think it's quite important for us to also understand employability as opposed to entrepreneurship, or to dissect the two. That quite importantly, employability in its nature is the ability for an individual to have a skill to be hired. If I were to define it, when you have got a skill, then you can be hired. No, whether you have gone to school or you haven't gone to school or what, as long as you have got a skill, you are employable. And that is our motto as TVET colleges. As you know, that TVET colleges are actually working alongside universities. And in actual fact, universities are there to provide academic excellence in terms of cognitive research. Whereas in TVET colleges, we talk about skills. Do you have a skill? And let's promote that skill so that you become an employable person. So what we have done in the sector of TVET college is to ensure that we have actually come up with partnerships with companies with a view to say, okay, what type of skill do you want? We will go there into the community and look for the skill you want. So you find most of the companies, for example, would say, we want plumbers, we want technicians, we want riggers, we want so many of these people. So we go into the community and say, do we have people who have got hand skills? And we find we have got youth. We have got those students that you sometimes say they failed in education in the secondary for grade 12, grade 9, and then we take them and bring them to the college. What do we do with them? We provide them skills. After providing skills, what do we then do? In order for them to be employable and for them to provide entrepreneurship, we then set up our colleges in such a way that we have got what we call skill centers. So we have skill centers all over our TVET colleges. For example, we have got the beauty and therapy skill center. in one of our TVET, in one of our campuses. And the main reason is for the students to practically bring community members and do the actual butane therapy. I'm seeing that you've got a good hair, but it was properly done, a presenter. If you could come to Weinberg campus, then you will be, your hair will be done. The idea there is for our students to have hands-on, so that when they get into the community, they start their own small businesses, which we call nano businesses, and they work there. We also have a skill center, engineering skill center, where we then say the community, we know the community doesn't have money, some of them, but they've got the skills. They can weld, they can do plumbing, and if they want the skill, the welding skills to be improved, then they come to our center, which is the skill center, which is in one of our 10 townships. What do they do there? They bring their material, we train them, we give them equipment to do work, and they leave the organization with something that they can sell, be it a motor or a gate or burglar bars or everything. They then get into the community and sell those things. When we incubate them, the main reason is for them to use that money as seed money, and they get into the community, they start their own projects. That is the TVET idea. We need our students, our youth, our disadvantaged people to be able to fend for themselves. We also have other projects like the clothing industry, which is a Thornton campus, where we take the community around as well. We train them on clothing, tailoring, and all sorts of skills. And then when they leave, we incubate them in cooperatives and then give them out. So in terms of entrepreneurship, we are ensuring that as soon as our student completes a course, they don't stay. We put them into incubation centers. And from the incubation centers, they then take a particular period of time. When they leave now, they are able to go and start their own small projects. So we have quite a number of projects throughout Cape Town. Of course, I know you are hosting us. Very soon you will be assisting us to fund some of these projects as well.
Wow.
Let me just end there, and then maybe I will proceed as we continue. Otherwise, I've got a lot. I can actually preach the whole day. Thank you.
I believe you. I believe you, Dr. Manager. I definitely do. Thank you so much. Katherine, maybe you can come in here. We're talking, of course, entrepreneurship alongside employability. Do you think employability should be based on education or more on experience? I'm not saying that one is more important than the other, but what are your insights regarding that?
Look, Tabang, let me just speak from my area of expertise, which is in business and small business. The fact of the matter is that people, small business or any business actually, can only employ somebody that adds value to their business.
Sure.
So I think that what Dr. Maswaba was saying is about making sure that he's providing skills that match the market is so critical, because a lot of South African youth have got pieces of paper that are of no value because the skills they have are not marketable. They're not needed in business. And so that's a disappointment for them. And it's usually frustrating for us as business owners. And so I think that one of the things that we need to look at is where is the gap in skills? And most clearly, one of the biggest gaps in skills in South Africa is digital. There's a huge shortage of people that have digital skills, that understand, that are developers, that have got IT coding skills. There's a massive, massive shortage. And I know this as a business owner myself, but also for the many hundreds of businesses that we work with. And so there may be thousands of people who are unemployed, and they've got HR skills, or they've got some other skill that's not actually needed. And so one of the things we need to speak about is, let's talk about employability is about teaching the right skills that are needed in the market. And that requires quick turnaround. I think universities need to wake up. Some of them are moving quite fast. Others are still very, very much stuck in the old ways. But it's really about making sure that the people that are doing the training are actually training to the market. And that's what makes people employable. It's not a piece of paper on its own is quite possibly not what's needed. Although the other thing, if I can just say, I think that what's needed from an entrepreneurship, so if people are wanting to become entrepreneurs, what they need is critical thinking, they need maths, they need design thinking, they need to be able to think in multiple, in multiple spheres in 360 degrees. Whereas currently, our schooling system teaches people to go to school to get the answers to matric. They're not encouraged to think outside the box. They're just encouraged to get the answer. And that doesn't work as an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur, I don't know if you know, but nothing ever works out as planned. So you might make a business plan, but the business plan is never, it's a novel, it never actually works like that. And so people that are going to become good entrepreneurs need to be able to be resilient. They need to be able to have all of these, to be agile thinkers. And that's a different set of skills that is often taught in our schooling system and education system in South Africa.
Sure, thank you. Lisa, maybe you can come in there, just as inferred from what Katherine has said. What are the programs or rather initiatives that you guys have implemented in your company to build the spirit and culture and mindset, most importantly, of an entrepreneur from the age of 5?
Yeah, thanks. Katherine, spot on with regards to that mindset, those behavior traits, those characteristics that need to be developed, and they need to start at an earlier age. There is a psychometrist, I think she is, where she tests what happens to the adolescent brain when it hits 12 years old. And there's a process that it goes through called synaptic pruning. And synaptic pruning eventually trims off those synapses that are not used in the brain before the age of 12. Right? So if you're not developing entrepreneurial behaviors and traits before the age of 12, they're that much more difficult to embed. And in fact, there was a study done that showed that the most significant ways of embedding that entrepreneurial behavior after the age of 12 and going into adulthood is through trauma. And we see that in our necessity entrepreneurs. We see that when divorce comes along, when retrenchment comes along, when life throws trauma at these people, they need to develop that mindset, and it's done through out of necessity. But yet, if we're developing those entrepreneurial behaviors, traits, mindsets, opportunity awareness before that age, we're able to give learners the ability to think differently, to act differently, and to start pursuing what is both entrepreneurial and employable as well. Yeah. And so part of the future-proof programs we work within a 360-degree approach to the school as our focus. So we work with the learner itself, being able to give them those mindsets, those behaviors, those characteristics, and then layered on top of that are the skills. And then lastly is the knowledge, the business knowledge or the entrepreneurial knowledge. And in our education system and the way our curriculum is structured with knowledge at the forefront of it. Then we think about skills, and if you're very lucky, you have a teacher that thinks about behavior, whereas entrepreneurship needs to be developed in reverse. And so we work with the schools around developing that, the learner themselves. Then we work with educators. Futureproof is the only accredited organization that can offer entrepreneurship education training programs to educators. And so we specialize in helping educators change the pedagogy in their classrooms so they're not doing the knowledge vomit. They're not doing the teach and preach approach where they're standing up and they're just presenting a textbook, through their mouths, but they're actually able to use interpersonal learning modalities. They're able to use kinesthetic learning modalities, which are the two primary modalities of learning for entrepreneurs themselves. They want to learn through other people, and they want to learn by doing. And our classrooms are designed to sit still, face the front, and keep quiet, which automatically marginalizes your entrepreneurs. And so we teach educators how to do that. And the third thing is we work with parents, because now your learner's arriving home with a new set of language, with a new set of skills, and you contextually come from an environment where you need to go and find a job because your family and your community expects you, once you finish your education, to provide for them. So how do we shift the contextual conversations with parents as well? giving them the tools to understand my child's coming home with a new set of language, with a new set of paradigms. What do I do with this now? How do I continue this? And the programs that we run work in that 360-degree approach. And thus far, 6,500 children have been through our programs in South Africa. We work in 4 different provinces. And we use a modality of teaching where we get entrepreneurs themselves, we upskill them in a trainer model, and then we put them into our programs for kids to see in living demonstration, this is what it means to be an entrepreneur, because you can't be what you can't see. So putting an entrepreneur in front of them gets them to understand this is actually possible for me. I can be this person.
Sure, you can't be what you can't see. That is so profound, absolutely profound. I have faith that you're in the right space. So looking forward to young kids that are going to take over the world. Okay, what I'm about to do now, I'm going to each ask you last questions. Please integrate your answer with your closing remark. Is everyone fine with that? Cool. So I'll start with Mr. Naidu. You in the automation space, the automation industry. And a lot of the times we find that in most of the third world countries or African countries, a lot of assembling takes place. We import all the other materials, we assemble here. Do you think we have the capacity to have a manufacturing plant where we actually, from input to output, even the transition, besides assembling, to do everything from scratch locally? Do you think we are ready for that?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me why.
But I think that I appreciate your question, but I think your question highlights a big problem that we've observed with doing work overseas with first world countries, is that we cannot and should not adopt their strategies for our population. It will never work.
Okay.
And actually, my closing statement is going to be a question, because I'm first, and so everyone else can help me answer the question. I'll take advantage of that. So my perspective, and I'm not in education. I have a business that we make machines and export them around the world, and we need highly skilled people. That's as far as what I know about education. But my question is, and my thoughts around the African story is that we sit today in Africa with 1.3 billion people. In the next 10 years, we'll go to 2.2 billion people. Trying to make 400 or 500 million programmers is never going to happen. So the question is, what do we do? So, I mean, and we're not going to make 400 million entrepreneurs. It's never going to happen, right? So the reality is, how individual amazing initiatives like you guys are doing is amazing, but it's not going to help 400 million people. So my premise is that, how do we use technology to scale what you currently do so that it goes beyond your physical reach? Because we have the internet and we have digital tools. And further to that, because we're not going to make 400 million programmers or developers or whatever you want to call them, how do we create and use technology to, and I want to use this word very carefully, to dumb down the skills required to perform a task? I'll give you a very simple example. I look at the age of the people in the room, and you guys would understand this. I don't know what the audience looks like, but you guys have taken pictures with a film camera before, right? And you know how difficult that was to get it right. And you'd go and develop the pictures and you'd get 2 out of 10 correct. Today, you just take a snapshot with your iPhone and you get an amazing photo. That's an example of how technology has been used to dumb it down for us amateurs to perform a complex task that used to require high skills 20 years ago. Today, you don't need any skills to take an amazing picture. But that's an example of how we can use technology to enable semi-skilled people or unskilled people to do more complex tasks. And I think that's the answer for us. And that's what we should be doing for the next generation, the next 30 years, is creating jobs on the factory floor that are intuitive, that uses AI to enable an unskilled person to assemble an engine, for example. Because you're not going to, that person can then get a job and send their kids to school to become programmers. That I can imagine. But the next 10 to 30 years, we're not going to make 400 million programmers, but we need to create opportunities. And I think technology enables us to create tools that people can use and also allows us to scale massively. Uber's created 13,000 jobs in South Africa, more than anybody else, as an example. And all you need is a driver's license. You don't need to be a programmer to become a driver at Uber. A London taxi driver needs to remember 25,000 street names in order to get their license in London.
Yes.
So my question is, or my theory is that I think we should be adopting technology to scale the good work that everyone on the panel is doing. And if we don't use technology to scale it, the pocket of influence will remain small and not big enough.
Yeah, no, sure. We had our pens and papers there. I'm just like, I'm so not here because you're saying things that are really elevating the mind. So thank you very much, Yanesh, for that. Thank you. Dr. Mswaba, do you want to perhaps come in there as well? Let me just ask you, how do you think we can bridge the gap between institutions, education, and business?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, but I wanted also to highlight the following to you. Did you know that there is a very sophisticated, definition of a company? I was talking to one person during my research, and I came up with an understanding that even Ronaldo, Ronaldo, who is now playing for Man U, is actually a company himself. And the question is, he is a company and has been hired by another company to be in partnership, and that partnership is to offer entertainment. And we are talking here about the skill that Ronaldo has. But more importantly, again, before I answer your question again, we are in the business of policy development in the government, despite the fact that we are offering skills. So when you look at skills, when you look at the contribution that the skills are making into the economy, and also the understanding of the pillars of skills that are within the organizations, one would then begin to see that we have got three important pillars that we need to talk about. And these pillars are skills, that is the TVET sector. And then we talk about talent. I've been talking about Ronaldo. I can talk about A.B. de Villiers. I can talk about many boxers. They are companies into themselves because they offer talent. They've got natural talent. They don't even go to school. They just open their eyes, they open their ears, they use their legs, and both become rich. Then we talk about universities, which offer a different type of contribution that needs to be contributed, that we need to talk about. But coming back to you and say, how do education sector contribute towards skills provision within the sector? I think the most important thing that we need to talk about now is the ability to come up with a proper curriculum in the education sector. The three curriculums need to be developed: the one that deals with talent, the one that deals with skills, and the one that deals with academic cognitive excellence. Universities are not better than TVET colleges because universities cannot do what TVET colleges are doing. Neither can TVET colleges do what the academies in sporting and arts are doing. Where we have got the soft music, the best music, and you ask yourself, where did you learn this music, this skill? And they say, since I was born, I started singing at the church. And from the church they then bought a piano for me, and here I am. So the gap that we need to do is to go back to the curriculum and say, how do we develop our curriculums so that they can suit the economy of the country, so that they can promote the skills that are within our economy and within our nation. I can tell you what Naidu was saying is quite correct, that we have people Even my children, when they get hold of my phone, they venture into it as if it's the ones that have developed. And you begin to wonder whether I am normal, because as an old person, I expect to have more skill than them. The issue that we need to talk about now in the industry, in the education sector, is to say what type of curriculum should be brought into the sector. Do we need to continue sitting side by side and hallucinating on what we call the best curriculum? Or we need to go out there into the industry and say what type of skill is required. And we classify our curriculum according to the skills that are required. Lastly, I want to tell you that there is much that the government can do to promote talent as a skill in the country. We are losing a lot of talent in our industry, in the country, because we are not offering them soft skills to be able to provide for their businesses. A person becomes a singer today, tomorrow he's dying, because there is no curriculum that will promote, there is no program that the government has set up to promote that person to become an entrepreneur. Instead, we take advantage of that person, produce his music, and we eat the money. After that, we dump the person. We take the person into Kaizer Chiefs and becomes a star. After 10 years, he is stealing in Soweto. Why? Because we have not harnessed the skill. We have not given the soft skills that are required for that person to be able to manage their own business. So in short, I am saying it is quite important that we harness the skill, but more importantly, let's come up with responsive curriculums. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mswaba. Thank you for those sentiments and your contribution as well. Can we have Katherine come in here? Katherine, you can perhaps extend.
Thank you. Thanks, Abang. Yanesh, that was really sneaky, giving us the difficult question to answer. Eh? Anyway, I'm going to go there first.
My time is up now, so I have to keep it quiet.
Yeah, you see, yeah. You're an entrepreneur, always got an answer for something. So I think I'm going to go there first. It is definitely the digital age, but I think what's important to understand, it's also the age of collaboration. And particularly when I speak for my mandate, which is small businesses, it's not that everybody has to develop their solution. It's about understanding that when you work together, when you enter platforms or you're part of collaborative platforms, then you can create solutions that are global, are world beating. And I think this is something that we need to start learning, is the days of holding everything to our chest are over. And just as you gave the example of Uber is successful because it's a platform. It allows other people in order to be able to play that same game. And I definitely think that's something that we need to be going towards. And then maybe just to say from our perspective, from Fotola's perspective, we really start with this component of leadership, really understanding that, yes, you can have the technical skills in the middle. So you could be a soccer player or a singer, or you could be a really good machine maker. But the reality is that that's very different from the skills to be an entrepreneur. And so we start really, it's really important to understand how do you unlock the leadership capabilities of the entrepreneurs? How do you help them to become fearless leaders? And more importantly than that is how do you then help those leaders to fit in the world? Because what happens is that as youngsters, and particularly as women that are leaders don't fit the traditional women's profile. You know, a woman that's a leader is not quiet and submissive. She tends to be bossy and outspoken. And so the thing is, those are the skills of being a leader. And when you become an entrepreneur, you actually often grow away from your family. Sometimes your family ostracize you because they say, why didn't you just take a good old corporate job? But now you actually want to become an entrepreneur. You're a leader. You may be earning more money than your husband. And these are the kind of things that have to be navigated. So leadership and helping to unlock those fearless leader capabilities is really number one. Then just talking to the business model, I think from a digital perspective, there's lots of nice There's lots of nice solutions already available on the cloud that can help to improve the efficiency of the business model. Then the third component of business success is access to market. And again, collaborative platforms. I think more and more we're seeing some really nice platforms coming to the fore where people are able to access markets, are able to find the right buyers on a platform. And then, of course, the fourth component is finance. But maybe there's a whole entire program that we need just to speak to finance for business growth. And I'm sure, Yanesh, you could speak for hours on this as well. The fact is, the matter in South Africa is that we're a very risk-averse country, and it's hugely difficult to get access to finance. But just in summary, Fatola, we're here, we build businesses that last. We're really proud of the fact that 87% of the businesses that exit our programs are still in business 10 years later, and that is more than 9 times the national average. And so that's what we do, including and increasingly using digital skills.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Katherine. Really great comments there. Can we have Lisa?
Thank you. In closing comments, Yanesh, I'm going to put this back at you because you put the challenge to us. And one of the things in your opening statements is you said it's really difficult to build relationships on Zoom. And if entrepreneurship is founded in the modeling of behavior and relationships with others that have been there and done that, it eliminates some of the effectivity that technology has on building entrepreneurial behavior. So I'm just going to put it back at you a little bit there, and hoping we can connect on other platforms and maybe continue an interesting conversation. Because we've tested this. Futureproof went online just as COVID lockdown happened. We digitized our entire curriculum. We put everything online. We put a Zoom API into the back end so that our entrepreneurs could connect with coaches over Zoom. But I'm telling you now that the modeling that builds self-efficacy, and self-efficacy is the cornerstone of entrepreneurial thinking and behavior, is built in relationship modeling with those that have been there and done that. And so I think this is also why we're struggling in Africa with the level of entrepreneurial behavior in our communities, is because that relationship and social capital that exists is not available at a high level, at a sophisticated level, to those in our townships and those in our peri-urban and rural areas. They're not able to access high-level entrepreneurs and be able to mentor them and model their behavior on them. So whilst technology, like Salim Ismail says, you gave it to us, exponential organizations harness the power of technology in order to scale effectively. Deep entrepreneurial behavior, thinking and action happens when you can build self-efficacy based on a model that is in front of you, that you have a relationship with. So if you've got a hack for that, I'm putting this back at you, is we would love to be able to harness that hack in order to bring about more entrepreneurial growth, specifically in the kids and the teens that we work with.
Absolutely incredible. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Naidu. Yeah.
Comment. Lisa, you're 100% right. I think that it's impossible to have that feeling of face-to-face interaction that you learn. And when you have a mentor and you face-to-face, it's very different to having a mentor online. I 100% agree with you. But that's the challenge. The fact still remains is that we have 400 million people that we need to take out of poverty in Africa. But and I think that we have to find a way. We don't have an option, else we'll be dead in the water in 10 years' time. But the one question I do have is, or statement is, I think you have to separate entrepreneurial training and skills development to skills to get work, meaningful work. I think it's two separate things. But I'll come back to the Uber example. So is an Uber driver an entrepreneur?
Mm-hmm.
So that's an open question. He may be or may not be, but that's an example of 13,000 jobs being created. So maybe the founders of Uber were the ultimate entrepreneurs, but you still had to have a little bit of entrepreneurial spirit to actually break the mold and become an Uber driver. So I think I don't know what the solution is. That's why I asked the question. But I think you're 100% right. That face-to-face interaction will not be solved on a Zoom call.
Ron, can I jump in there, Chris,
yeah, no.
quickly?
Y'all can
I
go
think
ahead.
that-
I can leave you here, so
Yeah.
you guys can just go ahead. That's fine.
No, I think Uber, that's a really nice example, Yanesh, with Uber, because I know there's a lot of anxiety out there that the fourth industrial revolution is going to like destroy jobs. And in actual fact, Uber is a perfect example of how it grew a sector. I know there's been a lot of anxiety. The taxi drivers said Uber took business from them. But the fact is that there are many thousands of new clients that now use Uber that never would have used taxis in the past. And so that's kind of a nice example of where technology is not only created, it's not only just created jobs for those drivers, it's really spawned an entire new industry. And I think it's a great example to use to just calm people's fears that jobs are all going to disappear and they're going to be replaced by robots.
Okay, thank you very much. No one wants to add anything? We all fine. I wonder why you're so pumped up towards the end. Must tell us
We
if you
should have
want to
started the
stay.
controversy at the beginning.
It's exactly, so you are a problem, Mr. Naidu, because you started this thing. Eh? Thank you
I'll
so
make one
much.
controversial statement in closing.
I thought so.
Uber's gained 13,000 or created 13,000 jobs in the last 4 to 5 years. VW, where I started working, has lost 3,000 jobs over the last 5 to 6 years.
Sure.
Because they're automating. So who should we be backing? I'll leave that.
You should have given us an answer.
I think the Ubers that are creating 13,000 jobs are the ones we should be backing.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
So Bev here in studio is asking if you've got shares in Uber.
No.
I wanted to throw a spanner in the works.
Oh no! Tell us, Dr. Manager, what's the spanner?
If I got it right, they were talking about face-to-face, impartation of, leadership skills and the like. And and also the importance of technology. And I'm saying as a teacher, born a teacher, and still a teacher, I think it's quite important that the feel, the smell, and the sound plays a bigger role when it comes to molding a leader. It's quite important that leadership has to be imparted even through modeling. Someone talked about modeling in terms of frameworks, but here I'm talking about modeling in terms of seeing Manager Mswaba as the principal of a college, and therefore learning what we call on-the-job training for them to be able to provide to receive the skills that are required. And it is quite important that in the different sectors, as much as we have technology, we also have the importance of the presence being also a fundamental thing in skills impartation as well as a leadership development. I thought I could just bring a spanner in the works around that.
It surely did work, us. Thank you so much, Dr. Manager. And thank you to all of you for your time and for your contributions on this panel discussion.
I really believe that if we want to augment the nature of partnerships and be more engaging in that regard in terms of collaboration, it needs to start with us. And I can already see a lot of collaboration here on this platform. So thank you very much for your time and best regards for the future. Take good care. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Ciao, ciao. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last, the final, and the concluding panel discussion around employability and entrepreneurship. You did see that it was getting quite heated towards the end. They wanted to stay and continue with the conference because entrepreneurship truly is the one aspect or the one thing that will boost the global economy and even our regional economies. And so I think the discussion of skills development cannot be divorced from employability and from entrepreneurship. Once again, I want to thank you, my VIP guests, for making this platform possible. I also want to thank all of our contributors, our guest speakers, our panelists, our facilitators,